So today we're going to talk about partial takings, also called conservation severances. So as those names imply, we're only dealing with a portion of a property that you want to acquire, you being a land trust or a conservation organization like a conservation authority that we have in Ontario, or in a case of a municipality with a land securement program. You don't necessarily want to acquire the entire property in many cases because maybe there's a dwelling on it or other improvements on the property, and your purpose for acquiring land in your land securement program is more for preserving green space. It could be for getting a trail. It could be for preserving species at risk. So the areas that wouldn't be conducive to that, you want to leave that to the landowners. The landowners, conversely, they will quite often want to just keep a portion of their property and offer you a larger chunk of the property that's not utilizable to them or to perhaps a buyer. So if they're selling the property and maybe they had a realtor also list the property and they haven't been getting much in the way of offers, sometimes it's been because the property looks too unwieldy for a prospective buyer. There could be too much swampland, it could be a liability issue in their minds. So they would rather buy a property that is more manageable and surrounded by conservation land. So it becomes more sellable. And we've had realtors approach us saying, is there any way that your organization can take away the wetland component or the hazard land component so that it's leaving us with a smaller lot, 5 acres, 10 acres, something like that. And that's been very helpful for everyone involved. We see a lot of activity happening where the realtor can actually have that lot sold or pre-sold upon the completion of the conservation severance. So it helps the landowners, it helps the realtors. Now on the other side, it can, if the landowner wants to sell the whole property and is not interested in donating the part that you want, this will reduce the amount of expenditure that your organization has to come up with. So when we think about conservation land value versus the developable value of property, what we're doing is we are reducing that amount of cost per acre down to that conservation land value amount. So it's helpful in that regard if you're looking to conserve your funds, which we all want to do when it comes to that acquisition. Now the ones that we haven't mentioned that are also involved in this whole process are generally the municipalities. So through their committee of adjustment or land division committee, whatever it's called in that particular municipality, they will be expecting a severance application to come through. Now if you're a land trust, you will have to follow that process. That's the standard process. What I would recommend is that you talk to the local planner first, or planners, and explain what you're doing, what your objectives are, what you're trying to accomplish, and educate them if need be as to what a conservation severance is versus typical severance, because I guarantee you if they've never experienced it before, they will not be ready to just embrace what you're trying to do. They need to know exactly that there will never be a chance of what you're doing by creating a conservation lot will become developable. So that's a good dialogue to have. The other thing is when it comes to the municipalities dealing with their own land securement program, that's easy. They don't have to go through a severance process within their own municipality. Conservation authorities that we have in Ontario, Southern Ontario mostly, they can bypass the severance application process as well with legislation that's provided to them through the Conservation Authorities Act and the Planning Act, as long as they have a land securement strategy where it's been adopted by the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, and that will get them to do a direct conveyance. However, they would be beneficial to talk to their local municipalities too, to make sure they're still abiding by things that the municipality will still want, like minimum road frontage and minimum depth of the lot that's going to be remaining. So there's a lot to go over when it comes to partial takings. I've just scratched the surface of that. If you want any more information, feel free to contact me and my team. I would be happy to answer any questions. So happy land securing.